Good morning. So how are you? I know I haven't posted a lot lately. I didn't have any decent content to post. I've been in a kind of bummery mood and oh dear. I think we will back up. Let's see what we can do here. Everybody does it. It's like a fight to see who can be.
You first.
You, no, you go. No, you go. No.
Oh my God, I'm just like, oh shit, there's somebody actually there.
I know.
See you later.
See ya. Well, that was fun. I'll probably have to start this one over, so I guess we will. Good morning, how are you? I'm doing pretty darn good today. I just had a funny experience. Somebody else actually came up the road, one of my friends, and we were both fighting to figure out who was going to pull over for the other one. It's like, no, I'm going to be more polite. No, I'm going to be more polite. It's always hilarious up here. I know I haven't posted, and I'm sorry, but I haven't had any positive content. I haven't been feeling positive. I've been doing some oh poor me, and I couldn't quite get myself out of my own rut. So I didn't post the things I was working on. I was unhappy with them, and I figured, negative stuff isn't going to help you, right? So I don't want to just post things for the sake of posting. They need to be helpful. That's the point. So I didn't post them. It is the way it is. But I'm doing better. And I want to share with you some of the things that help me get better. Because that's what I want to share. Things that are helpful. So I got really down about some money and stuff. I still don't really have things figured out, and they still give me a lot of anxiety. My taxes, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. I don't want to use TurboTax because it's gone horribly wrong in the past, and I checked with my tax person and it's really close, and I can't file an extension, and okay, the anxiety. Woo! So that was enough for one. And then, of course, I'm going through this CDTFA audit for sales tax at work. That gives me a ton of anxiety. Audits of any kind. I mean, leave me alone. I do what I'm supposed to do, Don't bug me. But they do. And I think it's ridiculous. And I know I'll probably get one every 2 years now. Because once they start, they don't quit. And I'll just do my very, very best and hope that somehow it doesn't become a disaster. Let's see. So some of the things I did this weekend to figure out how to get myself out of my little negative rut were the compilation of trying to find the tools to cope with them, coping tools. And this probably would work for a great many things, but I've found that YouTube, obviously, is a great resource. I know you have probably found the same. That's why you're here. And there are a great many ways to handle things, and there are plenty of psychologists and like-minded people, therapists, and those who have lived through events, like myself. I'm living through something and I'm sharing, that I could get some information and cobble together some sort of tools that would help me get through it. So that's what I did. And it didn't even take long to find relevant things. I've done that with some relationship things. I've done that with some, people I know that are extremely difficult for me to manage. There is a person in my life who exhibits a lot of narcissistic behavior, and it gets really difficult to work with that person. And I thought, well, there must be tools. I must be doing something wrong. And sure enough, I was. I was doing the opposite of what I should do to work well with this particular person. It's not in my nature to do so, but I do know that it helps the both of us, and it gets us both on a more level playing field, so that the both of us feel like we're getting what we need, and it's better. So I would recommend avoiding just a pity party kind of situation. That's why I didn't post anything for a while. I don't think that's a positive thing for anybody. And getting stuck in the oh poor me pity party is not productive. So don't do it. Find a way out. So the way I found a way out was to go on YouTube and start searching for the things I thought that I could find tools from. And I did find, like, there was a TED Talk somebody had given about mental health and emotional health. So emotional health is pretty darn important. And it wasn't really something I was paying a lot of attention to. And I found through a lot of these things that most people aren't paying attention to them, and they should. They pay so much attention to their physical body, but they don't really pay attention to their mental state and their emotional self. And they give all this care to their body, but not to their mind. And going through the process of transition is a massive stage of growth, personal growth. And you don't really have a choice but to find a way to improve yourself. If you're not trying to improve yourself, you are going to get forced into it anyway. So why not do the best job you can? Why not figure it out and have the tools so you can get through it and be better for it, right? So one of the things that I watched talked about breakdowns and why they're important. I don't really feel like I had a breakdown, but if you kind of look at all the elements of it, I guess you could say at some point I exhibited a lot of the signs thereof, where my brain finally said enough is enough, the burden is too great, and something just broke. And I guess that's a pretty good, way to put it. There came a point where something did break. I just couldn't handle me dealing with myself the way I've been dealing with myself for 46 years. Something had to change, and there needed to be a break in order to move in that direction. And there certainly was a break. At some point, the burden became so heavy that it was too much for what was holding it, and it broke. So your brain then forces you into the process of healing. It's not that I became ill and then broke. I'd been ill for a long time in that fashion. I was, sticking Band-Aid over Band-Aid over Band-Aid while it just bled to death. So eventually you got to quit that. Eventually the Band-Aids aren't going to allow you to heal. And again, that also ties into how we're not taking care of our emotional self and our mental self, but we're so willing to take care of our physical self. If you get depressed, sometimes people will tell you, oh, just shake it off, shake it off. You're not really depressed, you're just having a down period. Shake it off. And I know I'm guilty of this as well. I've said it to myself, I've said it to others. But, if you broke your leg, would somebody just tell you, oh, it's all on your leg, go walk it off? Well, no, my leg's broken. It needs to be fixed and heal. So you do need to treat your emotional and mental self the same way. It's vastly important, and people just ignore it so often. So, don't do that. I have to open the gate now, so hold on. while I open the gate. So, you can't just shake off a broken leg, can you? The TED Talk was really a good one. I wish I could remember who it was. I don't. I watched so many things, but this one spoke to me. And I actually started writing notes, and I recommend that if you find something that works for you, write the notes down, and then when you're done, go back through them and answer some of them for yourself. Really think about them and put them to use. So what I got out of this particular one, I watched the whole thing, and I understood quite a bit of what it was that spoke to me and what parts of it made sense for me personally. So I wrote these notes down, and I decided these are what I'm going to do today. So I normally just surround myself with other people. I don't let myself be alone. I constantly find a way to not be alone. And that's not a perfectly healthy thing to do either. I should be able to be alone. I don't need to be a codependent mess all the time. I do believe I'm going to join maybe a Codependence Anonymous very, very soon. And I'll let you know how that's going for me. One of the things that worked best for me, and I'll just share this, and that's what I'll share, was distractions are very important. And I put it to use. The lead up to that was some very, very easy to understand stories. One I'll share with you is this person talked about a woman who had been in a marriage for 20 years, and suddenly her partner walked away. And she was distraught and went through a horrible divorce, just awful. And after getting through the divorce and going through some healing of her own and wanting to go back out to date, she went online and went to a dating site, found a nice person to date, and this person seemed very interested and listened to her and was attentive. So they went on a date to a really, really nice bar in New York, just a really upscale place. And she got dressed up and felt good and went out on this date. And 15 minutes into the date, this gentleman got up, said, "Not really what I was looking for," and walked out. And I mean, my gosh, the level of rejection was horrifying. She couldn't even move. She called a friend. As she sat there, she couldn't function. And the friend was right there and said, "Well, geez, what did you expect? I mean, come on, you're old. And look at you. Your hips are a mile wide. You've put on weight. What did you expect?" And of course, any friend who would come and do that to someone wouldn't be a friend for very long, would they? I know they wouldn't be a friend of mine for very long. Although I'm so codependent, maybe I'd agree with him before I told him to get lost. But here's the deal. In that story, it wasn't really a friend. It was the woman herself saying those things to herself. And this is what we often do. We focus on all the negative things about ourselves and beat ourselves up for it. And we wouldn't let someone else do it to us. Why do we let ourselves do it to us? We need not to. That's part of the process of getting out of the habit of hating yourself and moving towards a place of loving yourself. I struggle with that, and I know I need to do something. I can hardly like myself sometimes. So I need to work on that myself, because I'm just as guilty as the woman in that story. And of course, rumination, which I heard the word but didn't really understand. It's the act of replaying all those negative things in your mind over and over and over until you drive yourself into a horrible depression, which I do, and I know many others do. So ruminating on something like that can just be really horrifying, and if you really won't pull out of it, it could lead you into clinical depression, which is a very serious condition. So that's, my goodness, get rid of that. You need to revive yourself, and not give up. And I think the biggest thing here is, if you want to succeed, the difference between success and failure, and of course failure makes us feel horrifyingly bad. The difference between success and failure simply is one thing: not quitting, not stopping. If you don't quit, eventually you'll succeed. Even if you do a terrible, terrible job, you'll eventually succeed. So don't quit. It is that simple. Don't accept the failure. Maybe take a break, rethink it, come back to it. Just don't quit. Because at some point, you'll find a way. And if you just don't quit, you can defeat that failure. And it is an absolute must that you defeat the failure. You have to. You cannot just have failures without some level of, I conquered something, or a component, or I did something else. You've got to do it. You can't just fail and quit, because it just drives you down into a place where you feel like a failure and you won't let yourself out. Then you ruminate on it and continue to tell yourself you're a failure, and it drives you into a depression. So in order to take care of the mental self and the emotional self, you need to be better to yourself. And that is a long process of trying to figure out, how do I stop beating myself up, hating myself, and move towards liking myself and eventually loving myself. That's a heck of a process. I loved the one thing that I took away from the big TED Talk, that distractions are important. So when you're being driven into this process of rumination, distract yourself with something. Do some house cleaning, wash your car, whatever it takes, something. Go read a book. I'm not a big fan of watching TV because I don't think it really shuts your brain down, but maybe that's what you need. Don't do the things we all do that are negative and harmful to ourselves, like drinking, overeating, doing drugs, being, sexually promiscuous, things that are harmful to us. Those are not the right ways to handle these things, and that's often what we reach for first. I know personally I would reach for food. Food loved me, and I loved food. We had a love affair that ended up with me being 350 pounds. So that was harmful to me, and I don't recommend grabbing the food. So I decided on Sunday I am going to exercise this knowledge that I now have. So I cleaned off the porch. There was a lot of extra wood and little bits of flooring and stuff from the flooring being put in. So I threw all of that onto the wood pile. And it was dirty and dusty, and even had like some moss growing on the deck. And I'm like, okay, come on. So I got out a broom and I swept it all off. I got a little brush and I got all the dirt out of the sliding glass door. I stuck the strip up the sliding glass door to seal it properly. I got the screen track rolling good, and I cleaned it all off. Then I had some window blinds inside that weren't working properly, but there was another set that had been outside, so I took a little brush and I dusted them off really, really good. Swapped those, and now my blinds work much better in the eating area by my little table. I thought I would do some unpacking. I thought I would do some general house cleaning, but then I decided I was hot and sweaty. I thought I deserve a little break, and I'd like to take a nap on my couch, something I just don't ever do. So I took a 30-minute nap on my couch, and that felt nice. Then I got the air conditioner working, and it needed some general maintenance, and I did those things. Then I needed to do some things for clothes. I had some clothing things that needed to be fixed, so I did some sewing, and I did that into the late afternoon, early evening. And I kept myself busy, and I did things that needed to be done, things that made me feel good once they were done. So the distraction of it all absolutely worked. Did I need to do it all day long? No, absolutely not. I could have done it for 15 minutes. So a distraction to keep yourself from ruminating on something and beating yourself up. The distraction could be simply a 15-minute thing, and don't talk yourself into a tizzy and start, crying your eyes out, because that's usually my MO. I'll talk to myself very poorly and then make myself so sad that I go to bed crying. And then, of course, I wake up crying. And the last thing you want to do is put yourself to bed in a horrible place. So now one of the things I'm working on that I'll share with you sometime is finding a positive place to be and a mental up talk right before I go to sleep, about 25 minutes worth. And I think that's very important, to put yourself to sleep in a really positive place. So that's what I'm working on next, and I'll let you know how it goes. I hope in some way all of that stuff rings with you and you understand and it helps you somehow. Remember, if you're really struggling, there are good resources out there as well. There is transgenderpulse.com. They have therapist resources that you can search by area, so you can find one near you. They also have suicide hotlines, and even if you're not in imminent danger of ending yourself, if you're having even passive thoughts about it, call them up. Talk about it. Maybe they have some good resources for you as well. Maybe there's something they know that you don't that would help immensely. Call them up. Find out what it is you can do to help that emotional and mental self and get yourself out of even the most benign thoughts of self-harm are harmful. So reach out for the help. It's there. Why not use it? I'll remind you now to give me a thumbs up for the video and subscribe. My content may not be real frequent lately, but what I had to share wasn't good, so I had to really moderate my own output, and that's what happened. So I think as I go through this, I went through a negative period where I had to reach out for those resources. So that's how I'm going to share this one. I'm reaching out for the resources, I'm finding successes, and when I do, I'm going to relay them to you, so maybe they work for you too. So I can relay the experience I've had that might be positive and help you as well. Remember, I deeply care about what's happening with you. I get it. I'm going through it. You're not alone by any means whatsoever. Please know this one thing. You're not alone. We all have to find a way. This is my way, and I'm hoping by sharing it helps you. So take care of yourself. Have a positive and good work week. Keep yourself in good spirits if you can, and when you can't, go reach out for those resources. Take care of yourself. I'll see you later. Bye.